This is the Frat House Sports Show. And now for this week's completely different and humorous perspective on everything sports, here's Frat House Mike and Sidekick.
All righty. Well, listen, we're going to start this one completely differently. You found us here for our second straight show of 2014, and hey, our 123rd straight production going, well, back, way back. Look, we had just too much fun last week with the three-man team that we decided to do it again this week, so we're glad we got you back in studio, Sidekick. But this week coming to us via Skype for the entire show is our Uncle Mark. And I understand, well, you're not feeling too good. I'm not feeling too good. Nope. They've quarantined us here in studio. So, Mark, how you feeling? You all right?
Oh, yeah. I'm okay. You guys are green at the gills. Keep it down there, huh?
That's right. We're keeping it here. They've locked us away. But listen, that doesn't stop us. That's never stopped us before. Lots and lots of sports to cover here this evening.
Yep.
And we're going to start it off with a couple of sidebar topics. And we're going to pick it up from kind of where we left it off last week, and that was, well, the BCS Championship. How about the very last BCS National Championship game? Well, at least as we know it in its current format, was played this past Monday evening between the Auburn Tigers and Florida State Seminoles. And for the final one, it actually turned out to be a really good matchup. Some have even said, well, hey, it might have been the very best. I guess that's kind of the way you end things, huh? It appeared, though, early on that it might not have been, as it really looked like it was going to be a blowout, as Auburn took a 21-3 lead with just 5:01 remaining in the first half. But Jameis Winston took control of the game in the second half, throwing 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, including the game winner with just 13 seconds remaining on the clock. But without a doubt, the most thrilling play was a 100-yard kickoff return by Seminoles' Levante Whitfield, giving the Noles their first lead of the game with just 4:31 remaining in the fourth quarter. Florida State went on to finish off the game 34-31 in what truly was a heartbreaker for Auburn. But nonetheless, congratulations goes out from the Frat House and from Frat House Sports here to this year's BCS champion, the Florida State Seminoles. And now I guess what we get to find out how the whole new next generation of BCS playoffs works out next year at this time. We'll see how that whole playoff thing plays out.
And a whole new trophy, right?
Actually, you know, that's we're not sure. With speculation, that's what I've heard there will be, but right. I guess we'll just wait and see. But how about this one? Just to break up the doldrums of winter and that horrible polar vortex. Gosh, it sounds like a disease. Is that what you've been suffering from, the polar vortex all week? How about a bit
to affected area?
How about a bit of baseball news? Hey, look at here. Unlike last year, we're actually going to have ourselves a Baseball Hall of Fame class. Inducted into the Hall yesterday were Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and Frank Thomas. In my opinion, all deserving individuals to be immortalized. However, for the past few years, the whole ballot process has been steeped in controversy over the number of admitted and alleged PED-using candidates. Players like Rafael Palmeiro have now dropped off the ballot after yesterday completely, securing himself less than 5% of the voting. Mark McGuire, Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa all lost percentages in this recent round, which was their second time on the ballot. However, there's been a controversy swirling around players like Craig Biggio and Mike Piazza, who many have felt are getting purposefully overlooked by virtue of association. Biggio, in fact, lost induction this go-round, his second ballot, by just 2 votes. Gentlemen, I'm going to throw it open to both of you. I guess first for particularly comment on these 2 in particular, but obviously I would suspect there are others who have been on the ballot who are, as some people are saying, just unjustifiably getting lumped in with a group of PED users and the whole situation of guilty by association. Sidekick, what's your thinking on this?
Well,
Biggio and Piazza, I guess, in particular.
Well, unfortunately, there's this stigma now around this era of baseball.
Sure.
And, you know, you've got some of those folks that are overboard with, saying no one in this era should get in, period.
Right.
Because you don't know who did and who didn't. And then you've got some that, obviously your guilty ones, shouldn't get in, but other people shouldn't be. And unfortunately, that, through this period of time, this is going to be, stuff that comes up.
Right.
Is, whether or not do we let these other guys in? Do we let those folks in?
Right. Well, and it's difficult to determine, in fact, who was and who wasn't and all this. Yeah. And I've actually heard the argument go the other way, saying let them all in. What the hell does it matter? Uncle Mark, what do you got?
Well, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, doesn't exactly work in this case, because you are talking about, steroid use and blood testing, and, we want to make sure who we're getting and that kind of thing. I kind of echo what Frank, the Big Hurt Thomas said. And you know what? Enough has been said already about it, in a way. These guys like Biggio and Piazza, they're going to have to go through probably several more revolutions before they get a serious look at. They've just been too closely associated with it for their playing career. Nothing proven, but you never know. Hey, listen, hats off to my guy, Tom Glavine. Now, I say my guy. Why is that? I'm a hockey guy. Well, you know something? How about Tom Glavine was a hockey guy?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty interesting. He was taken 4th round by the LA Kings back in 1984. Could have easily been out there shooting and scoring instead of having a Hall of Fame career. So, hey, I tip my hat to that guy. He deserves the Hall.
Well, let me throw a real quick question out there, because you're saying, well, okay, so people like Biggio and Piazza may have to kind of just naturally go through this. And yet Frank Thomas played through that era, and there was never, he got in on the first ballot, no questions asked. So why isn't somebody questioning him? My contention is that Biggio and Piazza ended up on the ballot at the wrong time. They ended up on the ballot last year when all of the other guys came in, when Sosa came in, when McGuire came in, when Barry Bonds came in. And that's why they're getting lumped together. It's not so much did you play in the same era, because Thomas played through that era. You had another issue, though, with regard to the ballot itself.
Right, because, we're talking about steroid use and stuff like that, but now in this class, we have another controversy.
Right.
And that is the joke that is balloting now. Because, we've got Dan LeBatard, who gave his ballot to Deadspin. You've got Murray Chass, who voted for Jack Morris just to anger people.
Right.
And then you've got Ken Gurnick, who's not voting for anybody in the PED era. His one vote went to Jack Morris, who surprisingly ended his career in the PED era.
Right.
He pitched against Jose Canseco for, I think, 56, at the bat. Mm-hmm. So, do we need to look at voting now?
Well, a lot of people are saying, hey, get it out of the Baseball Writers Association hands altogether and let the fans do it. And I'm not quite sure which is the best way to go about it at all, to be perfectly honest, to get the fairest situation. Look, it's the damned you do, damned if you don't situation. Somebody's always going to find criticism with whatever the routine potentially might be. I've not had an issue with it being the Baseball Writers, except recently now, as you're pointing out, some of them are starting to make a mockery of it, it seems.
Right.
All right, well, at least we've got ourselves a class this year, all right? All right, and one more little sidebar I thought we would have a little bit of fun with here. Going back to when I was in high school and college, I've always been a big fan of Jeff Millar and Bill Hinn's Tank McNamara comic strip, which still exists to this day. And this past week, actually, Tank in his strip was asking for everyone's nominations and suggestions for the 2013 Sports Jerk of the Year. So I thought it might be fun this evening, gentlemen, if we made our own nominations public. And so I tossed it out to you guys. Our biggest sports jerk of the year for 2013. Uncle Mark, who have you got?
Oh, biggest jerk of the year, Michael Waltrip Racing. That debacle that was September 7th at Richmond. There was no reason for these guys to do it. Now, listen, the owners, Michael Waltrip and Bob Kaufman, 50-50 owners, They've paid their sanctions, and they were exceptional sanctions that came down. Let's not forget. I mean, I think they might have set new records for NASCAR. But very, very serious situation. I mean, that team was poised to have another good year. And in fact, with that spin out by Boyer, which he denies that he had anything to do with, you just have to wonder if the Michael Waltrip racing team right now is spinning out as well. Yep. It was a jerk move. No two ways around it. They didn't deserve to win the chase. They didn't win the chase. They lost a great young driver in Martin Truex. Why? Because they were boneheaded enough to let their major sponsor leave. And where is that kid going to go? He's going to go be a champion, hopefully, for front row, furniture row racing.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, Truex got the raw end of that.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
I mean, he had nothing to do with any of that, and here he's the one out.
Right.
Right. Well, questionably, Vickers.
That whole argument again.
Vickers, too. You wonder what he did or didn't know. I mean, he's out on blood thinners. They're hopeful he can race again. He can race fine. The problem is if Vickers crashes while on blood thinners, it's a wrap. So the whole Michael Waltrip thing, I think, came back instant karma and got him right away. Biggest jerk of the year.
Yep. Sidekick, what you got?
I'm going with our good friend Johnny Football. Johnny Manziel, jerk off for the year.
I would think that he would be on many, many people's list at this point with his antics and shenanigans. And, of course, now he's coming out indicating he will be available for the NFL draft. I think those of us that are not big fans of Johnny Manziel are actually looking forward to it.
I'm so happy for him to come in the NFL.
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
Wave that money around, Johnny. We'll see how much of that you're actually earning next year.
But I do want to bring up a quick thing about my runner-up. I have my runner-up right here for Sports Jerk of the Year.
You are
I know that guy.
about the ravings of a lunatic
How did I
mind.
make that? Oh my
This is a
goodness.
black and white which came right off of the
hanging on
FBI.
the quarterbacks. And making us suffer through all the Peyton stories for the whole season.
Goodness gracious. I got another whole year of this, folks. This is what I have to look forward to.
If Johnny stayed in college, it would have been solely Mike's to hold.
My mother told me I could have been a doctor.
Well, I didn't get quite as creative. I wasn't thinking along the same lines as Sidekick. Otherwise, I'd be showing up a picture of him right now. But mine has to be the biggest NBA gold bricker probably in the history of the NBA. Andrew Bynum, who just last week was traded to the Chicago Bulls. Now, what do you say we take a look real quick at the last 18 months of Bynum's life? He's appeared on 4 team rosters, traded to the Philadelphia 76ers on August 10th, 2012. But never played a single game last season while collecting $17 million.
Nice.
The Sixers didn't extend his contract, and he became a free agent, which ultimately got him a spot on the Cleveland Cavaliers roster at $12 million a year for 2 years.
Nice.
Just before New Year's, the Cavs indefinitely suspended him for, quote, conduct detrimental to the team. Well, just last week, the Chicago Bulls traded for him. But the question is, did they? The Bulls traded Luol Deng for Bynum plus 3 draft picks. Oh yeah, the Bulls wanted the picks, which were good ones, but told Bynum, don't even bother coming to Chicago. In the past 18 months, Bynum has collected over $23 million for playing 24 games.
Show me the money.
I'm going to tell you, talk
America,
about karma.
what a country.
Talk about karma and things coming back to bite you. You gotta love that when he gets traded to the Bulls and they say, hey, listen, don't even bother making the trip because guess what? You're waived.
And they waved just like that.
There it is.
Just wanted the picks, bro.
Now's your chance. One last time, send us your suggestions for the 2013 Sports Jerk of the Year by going to our Facebook page and looking for the Tank McNamara post. I'll be reposting it. Leave your nomination in the comment section under that post, and of course the only way you can find that is by going to our Facebook page. Alrighty, that's our sidebar stories. How about you say let's head over to the frozen ponds, and with all the BCS and NFL playoff chat we've had in the past few weeks, we haven't had a specific NHL segment in the past few, and our NHL chat this week is brought to you by our friends down in Baltimore at Herb FM Sports Radio. Be sure to be checking them out over at www.herbfm.com. And with that, we bring in our hat trick segment with our own Uncle Mark. Uncle Mark, what you got for us this week?
Well, interesting. We're about halfway through the year now with the NHL and actually the NBA, too. I want to mention them because it kind of ties into my story. The NBA's maybe, 2 weeks behind their middle of the year. And thus far, we've seen great attendance in the NHL. So much so that a recent report was released indicating that teams' recent on-ice success has translated nicely 250th consecutive sellout through the regular season and postseason for the Chicago Blackhawks and San Jose Sharks in their matchup just last Sunday. Thus far in the year, amazingly, 15 teams have sold out an average of at least 100%. At least. Oh, on the face of it, at least. So, in other words, if you're only selling 90%, they didn't even include you. What that tells me on the face of it is that, 15 teams, 15 markets are obviously drawing at the gate, and they're doing the right thing, I guess, for Bettman and company. But it also speaks to the fact that they're about halfway there. What was made more interesting in the story, of course, was that the NBA, on the other hand, which is, let's be honest, a market which is, 3 times the revenue generating of the NHL, is averaging only about 8 markets in their entire league selling out at least 100%. Mm-hmm. And on the face of that, of course, it might tell you that, for whatever reason, the NBA, our third sport, is actually not as healthy as the NHL. So it does give you pause. Something to think about.
And you and I got into this conversation a little bit this week, Uncle Mark, and I throw it out as well to Sidekick. We have consistently heard NFL being number 1 in this country, MLB number 2, NBA number 3, NHL number 4. And yet these numbers are pointing out differently. Yet when you go to the CBA and some of the CBA negotiations that we've seen take place between both the NHL and the NBA, particularly in the past 2 years, the NBA does, by virtue of its league, it does bring in more revenue than the NHL. To me, I don't understand it, and I can't make any sense of it. What in the world? How can this be the situation if we're not selling out gates, and yet they're considered the third sport?
It's got to be merchandise.
That was my thinking as well.
Because let's be honest, they're playing in the same stadiums.
Right.
All of these teams.
Exactly.
The seat capacities are almost identical for a lot of these teams. So if they're not, I don't know if maybe it's how much they charge for tickets, or how but I imagine that it probably comes down to merchandise. I'm sure NBA sells way more merchandise, more licensing, that stuff.
But their fan bases obviously are not showing their support by showing up in the house.
At the gate,
the difference.
Right. All those Jordan jerseys they sell.
Still.
Very good point.
And all the Jordan sneakers, got my J's on.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing, though, that I bring up here is that we talk about the NFL being number 1, and yet, as we brought up here on this show last week, 3 out of 4 of the games last week had to have corporate support in order for those stadiums to be sold out, for their local markets not to be blacked out.
Yep.
And so, you start to wonder, is attendance live in almost all sports going down? You got to wonder.
Well, yeah, and listen, it's not made clear in the article if, in fact, some of that corporate sponsorship might not be the case for some of these NHL teams, because with the one example of Ottawa, every of your Canadian teams are selling out. And some of these franchises are pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. Calgary's in the basement, but they're selling out consistently. So that sort of makes me go, Vancouver Canucks, they're selling out. Of course, your Montreal Canadiens are selling out. Your original 6 teams basically are all sellouts. All of your Canadian teams are consistently selling out.
Honestly, though, I would almost expect the Canadians.
Well, you might think so, right? You might think so.
You know what I mean?
And let's not forget, we're poised on the precipice of a groundbreaking deal we talked about several weeks ago here on the show of the Rogers Communications thing. And, you know, with the blackout being lifted between your different areas so that you can see across continent, some of these sellout things are probably being allowed for, and or who knows? I mean, the language of the law for the NFL, everybody agrees, should be just done away with. Those blackout laws are arcane. We all agree. Right. Maybe pretty soon with some of these mega deals we're seeing, it's going to happen in hockey too. Maybe that's contributing to why 15 teams are selling out. Again, some of the ones that sell out make me wonder.
Again, arcane, I would agree with you, but nonetheless, a good barometer for those of us that are pedestrians looking in on a sport. And you would expect the Green Bay Packers to be selling out a playoff game. It's, you know, we wouldn't be getting that information if it weren't still a rule. So I think it's good information for those of us on the outside looking in to get that info, because we sit there and go, well, hey, what the hell's the matter with the Green Bay?
Exactly. And if there's any team you would think would never have a sellout problem, it would be Green Bay.
It would be Green Bay.
Right. It was feeling like, what, 20-something below, though? I mean,
I suspect weather may have played into that.
Well, sure, but this is the same group that I think sold out the Ice Bowl, for God's sake. I mean, 40-something, 50 years ago, so.
And an entire generation died, dude. So, you know, I'm just saying, a little attrition there.
All right. There's our hat trick for this week. Again, make sure you tune in to Herb FM Sports over on the internet at www.herbfm.com, particularly on the days they rebroadcast this very show, which lately has been Saturdays. But you can always check our Facebook page, because I make sure that I have the broadcast schedule up there when it becomes available. But make sure you get over there and check out their broadcasting. All right, we've been talking a lot of football without actually getting to football. So what do you say we do that? And technically, we're entering week 19 now of the NFL season and the divisional playoffs. So we only have a few more weeks to talk about this stuff for, I don't know, just about 4 minutes or so, huh?
Yeah.
And now, 4 minutes of football.
Cue the goosebumps.
There it is. Alrighty, listen, this past weekend, we saw a 12-4 San Francisco 49ers travel to the 8-7-1 Green Bay Packers to face some extremely cold temperatures in an environment that was, that rivaled the Ice Bowl, as we just mentioned before. The same thing occurred with the 11-5 New Orleans Saints, playing in the frigid temperatures of Lincoln Financial Field against the 10-6 Philadelphia Eagles. Some have stated that this is unfair, that teams with better records have to go on the road simply because an opposition team has won their respective division. Well, you know, look, here's the bottom line. If you're going to hear from NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, you can bet it's annually, and it's going to be during the playoffs. As he responded to these concerns and talked his other usual playoff stuff like expansion and Super Bowls in London, you know, all that great nonsensical stuff. But he also insinuated that playoffs may be reseeded in the future, allowing teams with better records to be the host, not traveling team. Okay, gentlemen, I throw it out there real quick. This might seem more fair, particularly when you look at the disparagement of this past weekend's 49ers-Packers game, but it completely discounts and dismisses the importance of winning your division. Huh? Where are you coming in on this one, Sidekick?
Goodell needs to shut up.
Okay. Uncle Mark says,
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, there's some weak divisions out there, and you're going to see a winner out of the division that might not be able to hold a candle to 2 or 3 from another division where it was real tight and they were all putting up great records. But the system is what it is now. How are you going to fix it? Are you going to just break it to fix it, or I mean, really? Really, it is what it is. I don't know. Is expansion the way to go? We're going to add another player, another team to play in, another 2 teams to play in.
Okay.
As we found out prior to this week's 49ers game against the Packers, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, the stylin, profilin, limousine riding, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, son of a gun, woo!
Wow.
Shut up and start talking.
Gave a pre-game pep talk to the 49ers prior to going in against the Green Bay Packers, and apparently it helped. News story that came out today in an update. Now, Ric Flair's from Carolina.
Yeah.
And he's been
Some on the Panthers weren't too happy.
Yeah, he's been, well, Stephen Smith with his outspoken mouth, insert joke here, came out and said some nice things about Mr. Flair, as well as many of the Carolina natives who sent him death threats. So he will not be at the game this weekend.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
All righty. Well, I guess, whoever it takes to win the playoffs, huh?
Wow.
Listen, we've just gotten done talking about popularity of sports and in which order, NHL, NBA, NFL. Make no mistake, the NFL knows they hold the number one spot, particularly when it comes to TV ratings. The fall of 2013 saw the introduction of some very popular new TV shows, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and The Blacklist, just to name a few. All these programs got very, very good ratings. But it was announced yesterday that 34 of 35 of America's most watched TV programs were NFL games, led by the Thanksgiving matchup between the Oakland Raiders and Dallas Cowboys, which drew 31.7 million viewers. In fact, I found this one actually amazing. The average NFL game got 17.6 million viewers, and 205 million Americans at 70% watched at least one NFL game. Again, I go back, though, to the question I posed before. I juxtaposed these stats against the fact that there were 3 of the 4 last week's playoff games needed corporate support to remain to purchase the remaining tickets and have their respective stadiums and avoid local TV blackouts. So, while obviously it appears to be a very popular TV thing, 3 out of 4 of them needed a little bit of help. All right, there you go. There's our 4 minutes for this week. All right, let's get over and take a look at our Facebook, Frat House Facebook post of the week. And we're going to do that before we move over to our picks of the week. And the most popular was a post that I put up just following the 49ers-Packers game, announcing the final score. And I didn't realize it, but we must have a heck of a lot of 49ers fans, because that post got hundreds and hundreds of views and got the most activity. And we thank you. And make sure you liked and have liked and do like our Facebook page. And make sure you get over and check it out every single day, because, again, 6, 7, 8, 10 posts a day, easily.
Always something new. Always
You
something.
got it. And we're always on top of it. All right. Well, just like last week. Just 4 games this weekend, spread out over Saturday and Sunday as we enter into the NFL's divisional playoffs. And I asked playoffs, seriously? Wait till you hear some of these point spreads for not the first round, guys, the second round of the playoffs. Wait till you hear some of these
Playoffs? Don't talk about
really.
Playoffs? You kidding me?
As usual,
Playoffs?
picks of the week brought to you by our friends Carl and Jim over at CLW83.com. Be sure to get over there and check out their network. And let's start it off with the New England Saints, who now are they are the number 6 seed, going to the Seattle Seahawks, number 1 seed. That's the 4:35 game on Saturday. And the Saints advanced by beating the Philadelphia Eagles last Saturday with no time remaining on the clock, 26-24. It took the Saints a little while to get going, but Drew Brees did throw 2 interceptions. Jimmy Graham, the guy everyone feared was was going to be a big factor. Well, he was a non-factor. 3 receptions for only 44 yards. Mark Ingram, on the other hand, picked up 114 all-purpose yards on his own and a touchdown. In many respects, some might say that the Saints got lucky being in the divisional round. Now, for all the hype about Russell Wilson, let's keep this in perspective. He's only the 16th ranked QB in the league, but running back Marshawn Lynch, well, he's quietly the 6th ranked running back in the league with 12 touchdowns. And the Seattle defense is ranked number 1. The game is being played in the home of the 12th man. As a result, the Seahawks are an 8-point favorite. No respect is being given to Breeze or the Saints' fourth-round defense whatsoever. Uncle Mark, I start with you. Where do you got this one going?
Oh, it's funny. I'm all Seahawks this week. Absolutely right. Yeah, all Seahawks. We'll see. I mean, I don't know if Russell Wilson is the real deal, but I think he's got a little more dimension than I think Breeze. I think what's going to happen is they're going to go out there, and I think this might be the week that they actually run out of gas, that being the Saints. They worked a little bit of a running game against the Eagles. They were trying to do something different. That's not going to work against this front out there in Seattle. I'm going with them. I'm going with them to win by probably 6.
Go ahead.
Okay. That was a really close game. I was there. The Saints, I'm not going to say they're lucky. They played the better game. They're going to get just demolished in Seattle.
Demolished.
They got demolished earlier in the season.
Could be the word. Yeah, it could be it. Mm-hmm.
The game was over by the first quarter. Mm-hmm. So I expect more of the same. Defense wins Super Bowls. 12th man. Insert, all the cliches you want.
Okay.
I'm going with the Seahawks.
I knew that was the way it was going to go. I'm going with New Orleans. I've said it all season long, and I think they're just starting to come on now. New Orleans, I think, is still the best team in the NFC, and I'm going to stick by it. There's too many weapons, and there's playoff background. Not to say that Seattle doesn't have it as well, but they're beatable. Seattle is beatable, and Seattle is beatable at home. And I don't care if New Orleans has got to be on the road again and has to travel across the country. You watch. New Orleans wins this game. All right? Okay. Let's go over and take a look at the Indianapolis Colts, who are the number 4 seed, going to New England, and the Patriots, who are the number 2 seed, and that's the 8:15 game on Saturday. Andrew Luck has suddenly propelled himself into some sort of elite status by bringing his Colts back from a 38-10 third-quarter deficit against the Kansas City Chiefs. And while he did throw 4 TDs, he also threw 3 interceptions, which he's apt to do. Nonetheless, many are referring to the Colts' 45-44 win over the Chiefs as one of the greatest comebacks in NFL playoff history. Real simple, let's look at the Colts' game plan. 100 yards on the ground, 0 from Trent Richardson, and 443 yards in the air, half of that from T.Y. Hilton. There it is, the game plan of a one-dimensional team. So it's going. It seems going against the Patriots in New England, you'd have to give the edge offensively to Tom Brady and company. But with the 26th ranked defense in the league, with more of their defensive starters going down just this week, it's recommended that Brady score early and score often, and don't turn it over. Okay? Here we go again. Gentlemen, with these wacky point spreads, the Patriots are a 7.5-point favorite. Again, I ask, playoffs? Go ahead, Sidekick, kick it off for us.
Well, I think the Colts are playing with house money right now. And they'll put up
Wow, wait a minute, house money? They're the 4th seed. Go ahead.
Still, what? It's like the Eagles in the playoffs. Did anybody really?
You're gonna tick off a bunch of Colts fans out there by saying that one. Go ahead.
Oh well, have another drink there, Jim. Tweet this. Anyway, but I think they're going to give a good test to the Patriots. But I think the evil genius Bill Belichick has got something for the Colts. I think the Patriots are going to wind up winning this one.
All right, Patriots. Uncle Mark.
Yeah, it's interesting. That KC game was a head scratcher. Let's be honest. Nobody was really expecting the Colts to come out of that. I mean, I wasn't. Let me put it like that.
Reed.
In my opinion, I really thought they were going to win. So 45-44, I believe you said was the final on that game. What's that tell you? There was no defense. Going up against the Patriots, I like the Patriots defense modestly more than what I think I like the Colts defense. But I'll be honest with you, it's a funny thing. Andrew Luck he had a hell of a week. But so did the Giant out there in San Diego. He too had a hell of a week. So it's hard to figure. This is playoffs, though, man. And here's what it comes down to. It's going to come down to Tom Brady, LeGarrette Blount. It's going to come down to who scores more and who scores more often, I believe is how you put it, Mike.
Yep.
That's going to be the Patriots. I like the Patriots. I don't like them by 7.5. I like them by 4, maybe 3. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think there's going to be some offense in this game. Watch T.Y. Hilton. He's fun,
Well, of
too.
course. I guess that's what you got to do. It seems
Right.
that's all they got.
Right.
All right, let's make it a trifecta. Patriots all the way, and I'll say maybe they do cover the spread. All right, San Diego Chargers, who are the number 6 seed, are traveling to the Denver Broncos, number 1 seed. That's the 4:40 game, the last game of the weekend on Sunday. But Mark just brought up the Chargers. Who'd have thunk it, but the Chargers advanced to the divisional playoffs by keeping the Bengals off the board for the entire second half, with Phil Rivers putting the ball in the air just 16 times for, wow, a whopping 128 yards, and beating the Bengals 27-10. More than the Chargers beating the Bengals, I'd have to say the Bengals beat the Bengals with 4 turnovers. 4.
Oof. Ugly.
Listen, do you really think that the Chargers will benefit from the same luck going against the number 1 ranked QB in the league, who threw 5 touchdowns for every interception he threw this season?
Here we go. Bow down.
Just look over the landscape of the Broncos' weapons. Thomas, Decker, Moreno, Ball, and at Mile High, everyone's thinking the same as I just itemized, as the Broncos are a 9.5-point favorite.
Funny, but when you're near me, I'm in the mood for love.
Well, since you're talking, what do you got? Might as well keep it going.
Yeah, well, Phillip Rivers last week, he continued the reborn status. I mean, he had a nice week. I did fine with the guy, actually, in fantasy. Like that little running back Woodhead. I think he was, you got to ask our technical director. I think at one time he was a Patriot. He was exciting and fun, too. They're up against the Broncos. They're up against, right now, obviously a very good team, but they're up against the specter, the ghost, all of that hype, which is this Broncos team. I think it's eminently winnable. I'm not going to bet against the Broncos at home, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think the Broncos are getting out easy. And let's not forget, they lost to this very team back in Week 15. It was the Chargers that upended them.
Yep.
So they kind of know how to do it.
Yep.
Going with the Broncos.
Sidekick.
Well, interesting stat for you. Since 2009, the team that has beaten the Eagles in Week 1 has gone on to win the Super Bowl. Who did they beat Week 1 this year? The San Diego Chargers. I'm going with the Chargers. Peyton Manning chokes in the playoffs.
Oh, my God. What a hater. You are such a hater. That is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Look,
is my face red.
I don't like the line. I don't like the spread. 9.5, way too much. I'll tell you right now, if I were betting this one, I'm going to bet the Chargers. But I ain't going to pick the Chargers. No way, no how, no hell.
Well,
it's not happening.
You wouldn't do that.
Denver wins this one, but maybe not by the spread. All right, last but not least, let's go take a look at the San Francisco 49ers, the number 5 seed at the Carolina Panthers, who are the number 2 seed. That's the 1 o'clock game on Sunday. San Francisco moved ahead exactly in the same manner the Saints did by beating the Packers 23-20 with no time remaining on the clock. Now, Kaepernick was good, throwing for a touchdown to Vernon Davis. But he still, nonetheless, led the team in rushing with 98 yards. The 49ers defense obviously came to play, sacking Rodgers 4 times and hitting the QB 6 additional times. Nonetheless, offense was Kaepernick all day long. 98 yards on the ground, 227 yards in the air. That equals 325 total yards of offense, and that's 85% of the Niners' offense coming from one person. Can this team truly win 3 more games with that kind of a formula? The Panthers, the number 2 seed, and home to the number 15th ranked QB in the league, Cam Newton, with 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions on the season. Is there any doubt this is going to come down to a defensive game, with Carolina having the number 2 defense and the 49ers with the 5th? Vegas obviously sees it that way as well, as San Francisco right now is a 1-point favorite on the road. This might just be the best game of the weekend, gentlemen, and I'm going to start it off with you, Sidekick. Yes or no? Best game of the weekend? What do you think?
Hey, this is my Bomb Diggy Bomb pick of the week, sponsored by CLW83. This is going to be a heavily defensive game, but I'm going with the 49ers to win this one out. Woo!
Thank you, Rick. How about we go to Uncle Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny. I didn't take them last week. San Francisco, I did not believe was going to be the better team, and here we are. And Kaepernick is putting up his numbers. Frank Gore had a decent week. Got to like that. Vernon Davis. They have several other weapons, and they do have a relatively good defense. It would appear, being a plus on the road, that this would be sort of a favor for them. They're not going to have it easy in Carolina. Carolina is going to make it so nasty. They're playing the Cats, and they're in for a cat fight. I'm going with Sidekick on this. I think the 49ers, at the end of the day, are going to be the ones to go forward. But this is definitely, to me, I agree, the game of the weekend.
I will make it a trifecta, and I'm going with the 49ers as well. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not impressed as much as everybody else is with Cam Newton. That's number one. Number two, I will say this with regard to the 49ers. I don't think they can play the same kind of offensive game they played last week. They got to find a way to get that ball moving around a little bit more, and they got to get Kaepernick from running and being the leading rusher on that team. Otherwise, he's not going to see a Super Bowl even if they can continue this winning streak. Not going to happen.
He is a tough kid, though. He's tough.
He might be tough, but I'm going to tell you, I just don't think it's a good balanced plan going far into the playoffs. That's it. All right, but we all got the 49ers on that one. All right, there you go. Those are our picks for the week before we get off of football. Hey, we are involved in our postseason NFL Fantasy Playoff Challenge, Frat House Sports. Who's up at number one? Somebody named Unnecessary Roughness. Uncle Mark, I think you know them, right?
Oh, I'm leaning in to take a good look. Yeah, right. Well, watch me fall next week. We'll see. That's some fun now. That's some fun.
Yep. Let's see, Sidekick Stenner at number 9. That's where you just make your move up. I know. That's how you usually start out. Yeah. I'm sitting there in the mid-pack somewhere, a little bit less than mid-pack. 7th. We'll bring you back up to date on that next week. Right. One final shout out, if I might, for our own website, please. FratHouseSports.net. Make sure you get over there and check us out over on that venue. You got Facebook, you got YouTube, you got the website. Hey, there's all kinds of ways to get hold of us. Are you kidding? All right, there it is. There's our show for this week. We got through it.
Good stuff.
Somehow or another, we got through this one. I don't know how.
Another good one.
Boy, my clad 123 is gone.
1, 2, 3.
Makes my day.
I got to do it. Here we go. One last time. Hey, you know what you got to do? You got to keep us real. You got to keep us live. You got to keep us going. We'll see you next week. Okay, well, just way too much fun here so far this evening from the Frat House. As you found us here for our second show of 2014 and our 123rd straight time trying to start. No, really, seriously, we've had so...
You ever get the